The J.P. Morgan drumbeat keeps banging on, and our own Anthony Curry was down at the shareholder meeting down in Florida yesterday. He's back. What happened? It was not quite the revolution that it might.
No,
some might have
it was for those of us who were expecting a little bit more. It was pretty disappointing. There were no Tampa tantrums, which an awful phrase I came up with yesterday. I apologise. Actually, it was pretty tame. There were the usual sort of smaller investors and interest groups who own shares saying, "Look, you still haven't sorted out what's going with mortgages. You're still kicking people out of their homes." And they did use this last week's trading loss as a way to sort of further.
And there were some tough questions. It just wasn't kind of fiery. I guess.
Exactly. I mean, probably the best comment, frankly, came from a woman who had been a mortgage advisor to people being kicked out of their homes for 5 years. She said, "Look, last week you announced a $2 billion trading loss, and you're telling us that's not material to results, and yet continually I see you not doing enough to help people being kicked out of their homes, and $2 billion could really help." So I mean, it's not the best analogy from a financial perspective, but actually from a publicity standpoint, it was probably one of the best comments there.
And how was Jamie in terms of? I mean, he continues to fall on his sword over and over again, but
he did his usual. He was walking around at the beginning, talking to people, including journalists. He wasn't hiding himself away, and often at shareholder meetings, you'll find the CEO and chairman up there on the plinth with several other people surrounding him. Right. He was up there on his own with the general counsel, so he sort of looked on his. He always does that anyway, but he looked particularly on his own, and he was tripping over his words when he came up with his mea culpa at the beginning. Now he does speak fast. There's nothing wrong with that because I can do that, but he was speaking fast, tripping over his words. But he was certainly somewhat.
But the rebuke was sort of mild. I mean, there was the expectation that what had happened, and it may have been a timing thing, that maybe they would have taken away the chairmanship from him. Maybe there would have been a sort of a stronger vote against pay.
Yeah, the pay vote went through 91%. Now the chairmanship had the chairman CEO split had the biggest vote in favour of splitting it for several years. The last time it got to 40% was probably 2005, just as they were changing over roles with Bill Harrison and Jamie Dimon taking over completely. And one of the reasons it was so high, of course, is because there's a lot more focus from investor groups and proxy advisor firms. And I'm not really sure how much, frankly, last week had changed any of that, because a lot of people would have put their votes in already. Some of the big guys probably knew they could change them, but didn't. Maybe there's not as big a focus on it yet. But 40% with this thing behind him, it's a pretty big rap on the knuckles.
All right. Well, it sounds like it's sort of maybe a mild calm before the next storm. We've seen a couple lawsuits today, and
there's still a lot more questions outstanding about what happened. So the story's not going away anytime soon.
There will be more J.P. Morgan to come and more Breaking Views tomorrow.